Hi, my name is Eric Willison, and I'm an attorney working in Central Ohio. And I've been doing DUI cases since 1996 and have developed quite a bit of experience in that. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what to do and not to do if you're stopped for drunk driving. Now, the first thing you have to understand when you're dealing with a drunk driving stop is the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution says that you cannot be arrested, searched, seized, stopped, all that sort of thing, unless there is either a warrant to stop you or there's probable cause to stop you. Now, you're never going to have a warrant to stop you at 2:30 in the morning. All the judges are going to be asleep, and there's no way that they can do it anyway because it's too serendipitous. But what they might have is probable cause. So, the first thing they're going to look for in order to stop you, they don't actually need probable cause, they only need reasonable suspicion to make a traffic stop. What they're going to look for is some indication that you are violating the law. Now, often that violation actually is not an indication that you're violating the law. You actually violate the law. You're speeding, or you fail to use your turn signal when you're turning left, or you've got a brake light that's out, or a headlight that's out, or maybe your muffler's too loud, or you roll through a stop sign. Any traffic offense will do to get you pulled over. Okay, now once they pull you over, that's still not enough to arrest you and take you back to the station. What they've got to get from there, they've got to get to probable cause. Now, how do they do that? They do that by enlisting their greatest ally, which is you. They're going to start asking you, after they smell a little of alcohol coming from the window of the car, they're going to say, "Have you been drinking tonight, sir?" Or "Ma'am." And if you say, "Oh, I just had one a while back," well, now we have an admission of drinking. That's strike one. Then they're going to be, of course, they're going to be looking closely at you. They're going to be looking to see if you have bloodshot eyes. Check mark. They're going to look to see if you're slurring your words a little bit, or you're speaking slowly or mumbling. Check mark. They're going to see if you've got some unsteady movements. Check mark. Then they're going to give you what's called a divided attention test. And this is such a subtle test that you're not even going to know you're taking it. Because what he's going to do is he's going to say, "I'd like to see your driver's license and your registration and proof of insurance." Now, the theory here is that people who are perfectly sober can do all three of those things. But people who have had too much to drink, they get fixated on one or two of these things and they forget to do the third. And that's an indication that you've been drinking too much and driving. That's another check mark against you. So, and all this time they're going to be asking you other questions while you're trying to find your license, while you're trying to find your insurance, and you're trying to find your registration. So once you just hand them your license, they're going to say, "Oh, well, he sort of failed the divided attention test. So let's get her out of the car and let's talk to her some more." Now, there's a Supreme Court case called Pennsylvania versus Mims that says it is legal for the officer to ask you to get out of the car, to order you out of the car, and you have to get out. If you don't, you can be arrested. So you can't just sit there behind your window and say, "No, no, no, I'm not coming out and you can't make me." Trust me, yes, they can. And the Supreme Court says they can too. And whether you believe that or not, I'm not here to tell you whether that's right or not. I'm just here to tell you what the law is. And the law says they can get you out of the car. So you get out of the car. Now they're going to ask you, "Hey, walk over here." And they're going to be watching you. Are you steadying yourself using the car as you walk? Are you sort of back and forth? Are you wobbling as you walk? So these are things that you have to be careful about. And then they're going to ask you some more questions. They're going to ask you, "Will you take some tests for me so that I can see whether you're okay to drive away or not?" And of course, that is like a lifeline to the stop driver. He thinks, "Wow, if I pass these tests, oh my goodness, I can get out of this thing. I can drive home to my bed and not have to worry about this anymore. Man, yeah, I'll pass these tests, don't worry." Well, that lifeline is actually tied to an anvil, because these are what are called field sobriety tests, and there is no way to pass them. The first thing they're going to give you is what's called the horizontal gaze nystagmus test. Now, all these tests come from the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration. The horizontal gaze nystagmus test is when they take a pen and they hold it in front of your face and they say, "Follow this pen back and forth." And they're going back and forth, and what they're looking for is what's called nystagmus. Now, nystagmus is the jerking of the eyeballs as they follow the pen back and forth. On a sober person, your eyes should move very smoothly back and forth. On a person who has had too much to drink, typically you're going to see sort of a notching, sort of a bump, 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 bump of the eyeballs going back one way and then the other. So that's the first test they're going to give you. And there's only one person in the world that can see whether your eyes are doing that, even if this is videotaped. And that's going to be the officer. And the officer is going to say whatever he's going to say. Some officers are very honest. Some officers say, well, I'm pretty sure this guy's drunk, even though his eyes aren't bumping along like in exhibiting nystagmus. I'm going to say they are, because I want to get this drunk off the road. And some officers really don't care at all. They'll just mark you 6 clues for 6 clues on the horizontal gaze nystagmus test. You fail no matter what. The second test they're going to give you is the 9-step walk and turn. They're going to tell you you're going to walk down a line, 9 steps, heel to toe, turn around, come back, 9 steps, heel to toe. Got to keep your hands to your side. And then you're going to do that. Now, anytime that you pull your hands away from your side for your balance, that's a clue that you are too drunk. If you start before they tell you to start, and it's a sort of a Simon Says sort of thing here, then that's a clue too. If there's even an inch or a half inch between your heel and your toe as you walk, there's another clue. You're going to fail this thing, one way or the other, especially if the wind's blowing, if cars are going by, all these sorts of things. If the road is uneven, you're going to have trouble with this. And then the third is the one-leg stand. That's very simply, put your hands by your side, stick your foot out about 6 inches, point your toe outward, and look at your toe and count to 30. And the officer will count to 30 as well. And when the officer gets to 30, if you haven't put your foot down or fallen over or done whatever, then you pass that test. But most people, their leg gets a little fatigued hanging out there, and one way or the other, that foot's going to go down. So these are the these are the field sobriety tests, and their purpose is not to see if you're too drunk to drive and they'll let you go if you pass them. Their purpose is to establish probable cause to arrest you and take you back to the station. Now, most people have heard that if you don't take the tests, you'll lose your license for a year. But it's not the tests we're talking about yet. You can refuse the field sobriety tests and not have to worry about any penalty whatsoever. The tests they give you by the side of the road in Ohio, there's nothing that requires you to take those. Politely refuse to take them. You don't have to answer why. Politely refuse to take them. Now, they're also going to say, well, if you don't take them, then I'm going to take you to jail. If you're going to take me to jail, then take me to jail. But you're not going to have me giving you probable cause to do so. Now, another thing, of course, is you don't want to talk like me. You don't want to sound like a lawyer, and you don't want to go on and on and on like I'm doing in this video. The more you talk, the more chance that the officer has to say that you were slurring your words, that you weren't making any sense, so on and so forth. You don't want to talk. You just want to ask, am I free to go? Now, the battle in DUI is not fought by the side of the road. So if the police officer says, turn around, put your hands behind your back, don't fight with the officer. You're just going to get in further trouble. The battle is not by the side of the road. Don't say, wait a minute, I want to argue about that. No. Don't do that. The battle is not fought by the side of the road. The battle is fought later in court. And if you don't give the police officer any ammunition, then he can't do the shooting of any charges against you. Well, he can charge you. But in the end, what's going to happen is eventually your attorney is going to say, there was no probable cause to take this person back to the station and force him to blow into the machine, Your Honor. And to do so is in violation of my client's Fourth Amendment rights. Therefore, all of this evidence that was taken, even though it's on video, it all has to be suppressed. And if it is suppressed, then the prosecutor is going to have almost no evidence, and you are either going to get a deal, like a reckless op or a physical control of a motor vehicle while intoxicated, or perhaps even a dismissal. Now, I want you to think about something, though, before we close up this video, and that is that it is possible to have a time machine. It is possible to go back in time. How, you ask? Well, think about this when you're about to get into the car. Think about this video and think about standing in front of a court and having to make these arguments, or better yet, having to pay an attorney $2,500 to make these arguments. Think about, what would I trade to not be in that situation? Or what would I trade, if I was in that situation, to go back in time to where I am now, standing here with the keys, and maybe I'll make the decision instead to take a cab and leave the car, and let's say it gets towed and I got to pay 150 bucks. Well, 150 bucks versus 2,500 versus losing your job possibly. There's where the time machine is. As you're standing there, go forward in time and think about that, and then come backward in time and say, I'm putting the keys in my pocket, I'm walking home, I'm going to ride home with somebody else, or I'm going to get a cab, whatever. It isn't worth it.